Hey coin collectors, and welcome to DC Coin World International Coin Channel. Today we're going to talk about the Lincoln Penny. First came out in 1909. We're going to talk about how they're going to stop making the Lincoln Penny in the United States of America in 2026. Probably around April, they'll quit making the penny anymore. We just won't use pennies. Well, we'll still have pennies, which we can use, but they won't produce anymore. So as we talk about the history of the Lincoln Penny, we'll talk about the original one in 1909. We'll talk about the steel ones that came out in 1943. We'll talk about how they changed from the wheat reverse to the memorial reverse in 1959, how they changed in 1982 from a 95% copper penny to a copper-coated zinc penny and how that changed the weight. We'll talk about what happened in 2009 on the 200th anniversary of Lincoln's birth in all the different Life of Lincoln, the 4 different Life of Lincoln pennies that they made. We'll talk about how they moved over to the shield reverse cent from the memorial cent in 2010. And we'll talk about the W Mint penny, the only W Mint penny ever made, and that's for the West Point Mint in 2019. We'll also talk about these kind of specialty things that you can make with a U.S. penny. So we got a lot to talk about, so let's just jump right in. In 1909, Victor David Brenner engraved a penny for the United States on the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. So he was born in 1809. 1909, we came out with this penny. It says, "In God we trusted to top, liberty here," the year in front of Lincoln. And they made one version, which was called the VDB version, the Victor David Brenner version, which had his initials on the back at the bottom. These are kind of fun ones to collect, and they're a little bit hard to get. And you probably have to pay more than a few bucks to get the VDB ones. The regular ones did not have a VDB one on the back. And it turned out that this was a little hard to get on there, and it wore off. So they decided right at the beginning of making these to switch in 1909 to the no VDB on the back pennies, and they decided to put it under the front shoulder. And we'll show you his initials, VDB, under the front shoulder on one of the other coins. So this coin went from 1909 to 1942, looking exactly like this. Front with Lincoln, wheat ears on the reverse. And then in 1943, they came out with some steel pennies because they wanted to save copper for the war effort. You see this is 1943 S. They made pennies at 3 different mints initially. The San Francisco Mint, which is the S, the Denver Mint, which has a D, and the Philadelphia Mint, which would have no mint mark at all. Now the steel penny was still a wheat ear penny, and they made a couple mistakes with the steel penny. So there are some $1 million versions which were made in either 1942 or 1944. Those ones, if you ever get one of these that was steel from 1942 or 1944, you could be rich if you sold it. The wheat ears penny continued. In 1944, they went back to the copper wheat ears. Then in 1959, they came out with a Lincoln Memorial coin, and this is a Lincoln Memorial version, just a beauty. And you see on the back there's some other initials, an FG there for Frank Gasparo. And on the front of these, way down at the bottom of Lincoln, you can see some little bumps here, and that's where the V, the D, and the B are. It's hard to read if you have a used coin. 1959, they came out with a Memorial version, and that went, and everything stayed the same, with Lincoln on the front. In 1982, they came out with a coin that had zinc in the center of it. It's a copper-coated zinc coin. It weighs 2.5 grams instead of the 3.1, and this is a zinc one. I think I can actually tell by looking at it, but if you can't tell by looking at it, you just weigh it, and it weighs 2.5 grams, and the copper one weighs 3.1 grams. So that coin stayed the same as a zinc-coated coin until 2009. And then in 2009, they decided to celebrate Lincoln's 200th birthday. So what they did was they put out 4 different coins. So it's Lincoln on the front, 2009, but on the back they have stuff from the life of Lincoln. This one is it's called his early years, and it's the cabin in Kentucky. This is the one where he started to read when he was chopping wood, kind of his middle years. Then he went to the legislature in Illinois and was a legislator there. These are his legislative years. And then finally there's a Lincoln coin of the U.S. Capitol being built, because the U.S. Capitol was built while Lincoln was in office. So that took us through 2009. And then instead of going back to the Lincoln cent in 2010, they went back to a different Lincoln cent with the shield reverse. And you can see this one. Again, this is a copper-coated zinc coin, a really light coin, but they changed to the shield reverse, and that stayed the same until 2019, when they decided to put out a coin without an S, a D, or a blank for Philly. They decided to make some at the West Point Mint, and these were specialty coins. You could only get them in a mint set. So this is a 2019 W, a very rare and expensive coin because they didn't put it out in regular circulation. Now in 2025, they still have these pennies, but in 2026, they are not going to make these pennies anymore. The problem with the modern pennies is it costs about 4 cents to make them, and they're only worth a penny. So it doesn't make, it is just not logical to keep spending all that money. The other problem with the pennies is people just don't use them very much, and you can't buy very much with them. We have a YouTube short that you can feel free to look at when we talk about the 10 reasons to collect Lincoln pennies. And we'll put a link to that, and we'll have a link to that in our video. So if you do want to get these pennies and find them, they're very inexpensive in general because they don't have any specialty metals in them. So right now, for like any kind of dime, 1964 or before, any kind of quarter, half dollar, or dollar before 1964 or before, they're going to have the silver in them, and those are prohibitively expensive because silver's gone up to around $40 an ounce. They also have these things that you can make with pennies. This is a Golden Gate Bridge 50th anniversary penny, and you might have seen these at some of the tourist places. Sometimes the national parks have them, where you can take a penny, stick it in there, and it'll flatten out and make it into a token of, or a souvenir of, your vacation. And this is a 1980. This was made in 1983, the Golden Gate Bridge's 50th anniversary. All right, well, that's all we have from the DC Coin World International Coin Channel. We'd love to have you subscribe to our channel and leave any comments you have in the comment section.